Alrighty. Audio's coming through. It's trying to connect my light. I don't know what the major malfunction is. And my camera. Good grief. You step away for like one day. And all this stuff just stops working. Just adjusting some things so I don't look like a pasty-faced gremlin. That's too bad. Connection. What the hell? Well, the light's on. I just can't adjust it at all. Huh. Well, I guess it's better than nothing. Oh, it's just it's an OCD thing for me, Danger Hobo. I have my Stream Deck Plus right in front of me, and it lets me control why are my headphones making weird noise? It lets me control both my key lights. I've got one there and one there, and I can control the warmth and the brightness on both of them just by dialing knobs. It's really great. I can, press a button, turn it on, press another button, turn it off. And for some reason, turned on my computer, booted up, and one light connected, and the other one was like, nope, can't see the Wi-Fi, even though it's right there. And it's the same one it's been using the entire time. So I wonder if I maybe just restart Control Center. If that will. Here, we're going to restart Control Center, and then we'll quit the Stream Deck real quick. Sorry, I appreciate you guys being patient with me. Got the kid off to bed like right at probably Chinese Eve. Got to bed right at 8 o'clock, so I'm just a few minutes behind. And seeing now, it doesn't even see it. What the hell? I don't understand you. It saw it for a second, and then it's saying it couldn't connect even though it had the right password. Oh well, at least it's lit. It's on. I just can't adjust it, and I'll play with it later. All right, so welcome back. Thanks for joining me this evening. Good to see everybody. Axis, thank you so much for the sub right off the bat. Really appreciate the support. Just a quick reminder to everybody, I take no monetization for myself, so that subscription money that Axis generously donated will go 100% in its entirety to stackup.org. We're always raising money for stackup.org. So if you want to make a donation to stackup.org, you can just let's see, click what is it? Charity is it? There we go. Yeah, just type in !charity in chat, and that will give you the link to my donor drive. And you can make a donation there. And this year we are cutting out the Twitch middleman entirely, because Twitch charges fees for you to use their platform to donate to charity, and so you end up losing like 5% of the donation. It's like, no, fuck you guys. I want it all. And so we're just going to use the link, the donor drive link in chat. So yeah, if you can't see that, just do !charity and it'll pop up. But I really appreciate any support you guys can give. So yeah, this evening we are doing another episode of Lore Equals Gameplay. We're looking at the December 2023 Galactapedia update. I'm catching up. I know the January one just came out, so we will probably do that on Monday, barring any changes. As if this is your first time hanging out and watching Lore Equals Gameplay, what I do is I go through the Galactapedia update, the articles in the Galactapedia update, and we read through them, and we look for any tidbits of information that sort of hint about how the lore will impact and be relevant to gameplay in Star Citizen, both currently and in the future. And so a lot of it has to deal with locations. It can also deal with factions and key characters, in the history. And so it's important to to be up to speed on the lore of Star Citizen, because it plays a lot more into how the game functions, and what you can do, what you can't do, from everything from the reputation system to what's in a given location and what's not, who's there, all that sort of stuff. So being up to speed on the lore will definitely help. It's one of many things that I feel will help set you up for success in Star Citizen, especially as the game continues to expand and evolve. We go through those articles, and when we're looking at the different locations, so like planets, asteroid belts, star systems, we will use the Ark Starmap to sort of ground ourselves in where those locations are relevant to the rest of the universe. We'll look at how big the star systems are, where the planets are currently located within the star systems, where those star systems are in relevance to what we have now in game and in the future, where the jump points are and what size, all that. It's relevant information. Before we get started, though, just want to let everybody know ahead of time, Nazarus and I are still planning on doing the Pathfinders podcast tomorrow night. It'll be episode 64. Yeah. And the plan is to do 2 Spectrum pulses. Nothing huge, nothing groundbreaking. But the first one, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the sort of list that came out from... Pardon me. Oh, I forgot it. That came out from SCL yesterday. And we're going to look at the list of things that were disclosed that are planned, emphasis on planned, intended for Alpha 323, whenever that will be. It's the Q1 patch, so it's always targeted for the end of March. It always slips into April. For a patch this big, I would expect the testing cycle to last a bit longer. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes well into April and we get a .1 patch on its heels for Invictus launch week in May. So we're going to look at that list and we're going to compare it. So we're not only going to go through the things in that list, but we're also going to compare it to the list that Jared gave us at the end of the last ISC for 2023 in December. Hey, Shimpasta07, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. And so we're going to sort of, look at those 2 lists and be like, okay, well, what's left? And that way we can, make sure everybody's aware. If you haven't watched SCL, here are the things that they're working hard on getting into 323. Jake has already said a number of those things will be going onto the release view for 323 this next Wednesday. And then we're going to look at the difference, the things that aren't on that list, and sort of in order to sort of set our expectations for, okay, here we have information in order to set our expectations loosely for 323. And then we're also going to sort of set some groundwork for beyond, whether we get a 324 patch or whether it goes to 4.0, we don't know. But we're going to look at, okay, this is what they're talking about right now. And here is what else Jared had said for the first half of this year, which includes 4.0. So that's going to be the first Spectrum Pulse of tomorrow evening on the Pathfinders podcast. And then we're also going to, just as part of this whole catching up process, because I was on hiatus with all the chaos in my life, we're going to go through the financial report. And I know the financial report isn't like exciting, but it's important. And it's, again, one of those things that helps provide context to Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development. And there's a few things that Nazarus and I thought would be really, are important to highlight and to help dispel some rumors, maybe assuage some fears, and help give people a little bit better understanding into CIG's financials and how they operate as a business, as a developer. That's the plan for tomorrow evening. And then again, like I said, planning on doing another Lore Equals gameplay on Monday night in order to cover the January Galactapedia update. So let's go ahead and let's see. This part better work. Okay. We're going to switch windows. to get into the viewing window, so that way you guys can see my screen. We'll get right into the articles and the Ark Starmap. But again, thanks for being here. Good to see you guys. Hope you're having a good weekend. Oh, the camera's not right. Let's see. Hold on. I need to adjust that. Bear with me. Un minuto. I changed everything on the camera so that way it would be a little bit better fidelity. But I have to resize everything. There we go. That looks okay. All right. Okay. So, all right. And just as a reminder, as I always do, we'll read through this little introductory bit here, but the Galactapedia update is written as if it's an update essentially to the Ark. The Ark is a massive space station in the Teac system right here. Here, let's get rid of these. Bookmark bar. There we go. And what it is humanity, the UEE, built this station as sort of like the Library of Alexandria, historical reference. Basically, it's a giant. It's supposed to be a giant multi-species repository of information. You know, a shared library of information for all species. It was like an olive branch, a goodwill gesture after the Mezzers had been deposed, after centuries of dictatorship and mistrust, you know, particularly between humanity and the Xi'an, but also, you know, we're not exactly on the best of terms with the Tavarn after absorbing them, after conquering them, and you know, even though the Banu don't keep records, it's, you know, they're one of our primary trade partners and stuff. So, yeah, it's written that way, and I like to do lore equals gameplay as if I'm, you know, RPing as if I'm a student at one of the universities at Red Tor. And so I'm with the library, looking at this newest article, you know, update to the Ark, as if it was posted on Spectrum, which is like the web, the internet, in the 30th century. And in the back of me, you've got the bookshelves, but then you also have the three founding fathers of, sorry, Algrid, my chair's in the way, of the good use of the GI Bill. Yeah, no joke. The founding fathers of the Lore Citizen podcast, which is a podcast that the Astropub, Paul Shelley, does. I've been a guest on it a couple of times. But you've got, this way. Paul Shelley, you've got Algorand, and then you've got Jail over there. Are you saying we need to remind the Tavarn of how lucky they are to still be a Yes. Constant reminders. And we can't be subtle about it. We don't want them getting overconfident in their position within the UEE. Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Welcome to this month's Galactapedia Update Roundup. This month we'll visit the Ta'al and Hyoten systems. This is actually particularly interesting, and we'll get there in a second. Meet the co-discoverers of the Kai Pua Hyoten jump point, learn about the Central Core Bank, and carefully greet the Drop Kings. Interesting, the Drop Kings. I don't think if that's a name, if that's a gang, I haven't heard of them before, or at least not offhand. I can't remember them. And join the Spectrum thread for any discussion or feedback. And so in the Spectrum thread, the articles are reposted by Sherry, and then people will make comments, and Sherry will respond to them. Interesting that she didn't respond as a dev in this one. Good old Astropub making a correction. Jail, as always, correcting on the Xi'an. These systems are Xi'an systems, and and it's been a heavily Xi'an influence over the last several Galactapedia updates. Maybe it's like the Jump Advanced Party drop. I don't know. We'll see. So full-length articles on the Stanton system, as if it was a mystery. But Paul did go through this, and there were some changes. I'm not going to dig into what the changes were unless they're really obvious to me offhand. But one thing that's been interesting to do is to use what's called the Wayback Machine. If you just Google it, Wayback Machine, I think it's waybackmachine.net. You can plug in a web address and you can see, okay, here's what it looks like from the most recent update, and then go back from previous updates and see how it's changed. And so you would be able to do that for the Stanton system on the Galactapedia, because this is the first time it's been added. But what you could do is you could look at the original Galactic, I think it's the Galactic Guide articles, and see how those have changed. I did that for the Galactapedia update for October when they did the big retcon for Pyro. So let's get into the Stanton system. And this is the full-length article. There's always one full-length article and then a bunch of short articles. And usually they'll cover 2 star systems, several characters, historical characters, in a lot of times either factions and or ships. So the Stanton system, oh, come on. You're not going to, really? Let's try this again. Load the star map. Come on. How dare you? If the star map is borked again for some reason, I'm going to be very upset. What if we refresh and we enter into full screen mode? There it is. Oh. What the heck? It worked for a second. Come on. You know you want to. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Just close the tab. We'll reopen it. Apologize for the delays. Gotta love it when this doesn't work. Thank you. All right. Okay. And of course it loads in. Sol is in the center because fuck Terra. All right. As we all know, well, hopefully you know, but if not, here we are. We're going to orient ourselves. Here is the Stanton system. The Stanton system is connected by 2 large jump points and 1 medium jump point, 1 large going to Magnus, 1 large going to Terra, and a medium going to Pyro. So, and currently, the Stanton system is 5 AU. I don't expect that to change. So let's go ahead and get into the Stanton system. And let's see. What's really interesting is they updated Pyro on the star map when Pyro was shown off at CitizenCon. We got to play it, and there was all those updates, but it's not updated. The Stanton system isn't updated, so it makes me wonder: are they planning any changes to Stanton? All right, so hold on, got a drink. Stay hydrated, everyone. Stay frosty. Oh. Yeah, Stanton is definitely not. No, good point, Blizzard. Stanton is definitely not done yet. It just makes me want, like, obviously we still need the air in Halo. They have said multiple times when people have asked about it, it is still planned. It's just not a priority right now. So it'll be interesting to see what, if any, in terms of changes they make. Yeah, much will never be done, which is a good thing. Yes, development will continue and we'll always be getting new stuff. So, the Stanton system is a planetary system in the UEE discovered in Standard Earth year 2851 by nav jumper Toshi Aaron, hence the name of the Aaron belt, and is made up of 3 super Earths, a gas giant, an asteroid belt, and a G-type star. And they say super Earth. So a super Earth is a terrestrial planet that like Earth, but when they say super Earth, it means it's a much larger planet. I think Terra is a super Earth as well. So one of the questions that brings up to me is we've been told that planets are 1/10 scale, and moons are 1/6, and stellar distances are 1/10 scale. And so with that, there was a graphic that got put out a while back, showed that Crusader in game is actually the size of Earth IRL, based off of scale. So it makes me wonder if, we have Hurston, we have Microtech, we have Ark Core, those are super Earths. Makes me wonder what size, it'll be interesting to see other planets and be able to get a gauge of like how big they are relative to the planets we have in Stanton, in terms of their radius or diameter, their surface areas, because that makes a big difference. A super Earth versus a regular sized terrestrial planet. There's going to be a lot of variation in the size of gas giants. So it's not, every planet isn't going to be the same size. Every moon isn't going to be the same size. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that variety impacts how we navigate the game and how we get around. The Prisoner says, Lore equals gameplay, good title. People say they don't like lore but complain about lack of gameplay. Of course, they have lots of gameplay to add. I think it's something. Lore equals gameplay is not something I came up with. It's something that Paul Shelley, the Astropub, has said many times, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna steal that. This is mine now. Thank you, comrade, because it really is, especially with Star Citizen that places such a heavy emphasis on the lore and knowledge of the in-game universe in terms of being successful. And it's not as impactful right now in the game. And it's something that Paul and I have complained about many times. But it will be in the future. And it's definitely intended. And most games don't have anywhere close to the amount of lore that Star Citizen does, especially not built into the game itself. It's not impactful. It's just, fluff in the background. And so that's why I do these things, because I read this. Before I started doing the show and podcasting, I was always reading these things and coming up with these conclusions. And I was like, oh man, this makes so much sense. I can't, and I realized that no one was covering this. And so this is one of the niches that I do on my channel, niche, because it's information that is not well covered by the rest of the content creator sphere in Star Citizen. As far as time, I don't know. That I don't recall. The part I always remember is planets are 1/10, moons are 1/6, and stellar distances are 1/10. Now, it's not to say that Stanton being 5 AU on the star map is actually 50 AU. No, it's actually 5 AU, but it's 5 AU within the Star Citizen scale. And an interesting point about that is, and I've brought this up before, Stanton is over here 5 AU. All these different systems have different system sizes, but we have always wondered, like, okay, what is the exact scale? They say 1/10, but how does that work? And what measurement are they using to say, okay, this is how big a star system is? Like, where does 5 AU go out to? And the only reference we have is that Sol on the star map is 51 AU. And Sol in real life, we measure 51 AU is the distance out. I think it's the radius from the star, from our sun out to the what's called the Kuiper Cliff, which is the, if you've heard of the Kuiper Belt, it's the a sort of an asteroid belt, but very, very not dense, way out in the distant outer reaches of the system. And basically, once you get out to the edge of that belt, where the number of stellar bodies that are, I think it's 100 kilometers or greater, essentially the number of them drops off a cliff. That's where they sort of measure the Kuiper Cliff, and that's at like 50 AU. So this is essentially saying that that's where they measure the outer edge of the star system, where they're just, you get to the edge of the system where there's actually things that are floating around in space within the sort of gravity well of the star, to where there's just a whole bunch of nothing and you're out into interstellar space, essentially. Yeah. Yeah, so let's just a point of reference. So let's keep reading about Stanton. All planets in the system were sold by the UE government to 4 major corporations soon after their discovery. While inhabitants are protected under UEE's common laws, Shanks for Giggles says, "What are we talking about today, fellas? This is my first time tuning in. Don't mean to interrupt." Hey, no worries. Glad to have you. Thanks for coming and hanging out. We are going over the Galactapedia update for December, as I'm catching up on all those. Just a quick refresher, Lore Equals Gameplay is a show that I do where we look at the lore of Star Citizen and how the information that the narrative team puts out to us is relevant and impactful to gameplay both now and in the future. And so these episodes, normally what I do is I'll read through the articles in the Galactapedia update, and I will help correlate that information via the Ark Starmap.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Part of the ship.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Part of the ship.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship. Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Elwook, thank you so much for the follow. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Appreciate the support. Hope you're having a good evening. Where was I? So while inhabitants are protected under UEE's common laws, think of UEE common law as if you're in the US, would be like federal law. Whereas each system has its own laws that do not supersede common law, but can be in addition to. And that would be like state laws in the U.S. And I don't, and forgive me for not being able to reference other countries, but I honestly don't know how that works in places like Europe and Australia and stuff. Let's see. So while inhabitants are protected under UE common law, they are also subject to rules imposed by the individual corporations that own each planet. Now, remember, these are rules; they're not laws. The corporations own the planet, and they technically govern them, but they're, it's a little bit murky. It's not really, you follow their rules, but it's not like they're. The UEE isn't going to enforce those rules, if that makes sense. Whereas the different other star systems within the UEE essentially have would have like almost like extradition treaties, where if you violated a law and you were wanted in one system and another system found out about it, they're not required to enforce that law. But a lot of times, hey, you're under arrest. We're going to extradite you back to Ellis from Terra, something like that. So the planetary system, the system star, Stanton, is a G-type main sequence star about the same size as Sol and is roughly 4.6 billion years old. Its 3 terrestrial planets, Hurston, Ark-Core, Microtech, and Stanton, Hurston, Ark-Core, and Microtech, all sit in the system's green band and were terraformed to support human life. Unique among gas giants, Crusader has a nitrogen-oxygen upper atmosphere. That's important. It's upper atmosphere. And a natural ecosystem made up of plants, pardon me, and animals that live their entire lives in midair. Interesting that they said plants, because they have sort of briefly talked about the narwhals, right? Stormwalls, not narwhals, stormwalls. They do sort of feed on like plankton-like things. I haven't been very clear about it, but it's interesting that they mentioned plants. So not only are we gonna have the stormwalls, but they're eventually, we're gonna find out what sort of things also live in the upper atmosphere of Crusader. A dense asteroid belt sits between Ark Core and Crusader. Discovery. In 2851, nav jumper Toshi Aaron was scanning for anomalies in the outskirts of the Magnus system. Beer break. Let's see. She had spent the last decade trying to fulfill her dream of discovering a jump point, spending as much time as she could in pursuit. A week before her 49th birthday, she detected a strange signal. She noted the location, recorded all the data she could, and headed home to analyze what it could mean. Also, all signs pointed to the likelihood that she had indeed found what she'd been looking for. A few days later, with a ship fully equipped to make the leap, she returned to the location and entered the jump tunnel. After a few harrowing moments traversing interspace, she found herself on the other side. No, absolutely. Glad to have you, Shanks for Giggles. Glad you decided to come and hang out with us this evening. Hope you enjoy the content. If you haven't, and this goes for everybody in chat and anybody who's watching later on YouTube, if you have feedback for me, constructive feedback, I want to hear it. You can give me feedback here in chat. You can hit me up in my Discord. The link to my Discord, the invite should be active and open on my homepage on Twitch. I know, Northern Trooper, I'm going to fix it, I swear. Okay, you have to remind me. You have to hop my Discord and remind me. Send me a PM to tell me to fix my bot. Oh, yeah, you do send... Okay, yep, I've seen you in Paul's Discord. Yeah, I've been on Paul's show numerous times. We're good friends. Paul and I roomed together at CitizenCon this year. Thank you, Northern Trooper. You are a legend. I really appreciate it. But yeah, if you have feedback for me, leave it in the comments on YouTube. Hit me up on Twitter, in the comments here in chat right now, or hop in my Discord. I'd love to hear it. Or if you just have questions. If you have lore questions, by all means, let me know. If I don't have the answer, I will help you find it. And if we can't find the answer together, we will we'll go ask one of the professors. Yeah. Yeah, we had a good time. We had a good time at CitizenCon. No, we had a great time. That's putting it mildly. It was an amazing time. It was awesome. So history. Aaron's discovery made waves in the UE government. Not only were all the planets in the system located within the green band, which is really rare. We definitely did some drinking. I drank too much at CitizenCon. Not as much as Paul. Paul can definitely put it down better than I can these days. But we definitely had a good time. Let's see. But when UE Pathfinders surveyed the system, so UE Pathfinders, if you want, there's a little tidbit more about the UE Pathfinders in the lore for the Carrick. And that is a organization and group that I would love to hear more about. They found a jump point that connected Stanton to Terra, which is a big deal because Terra is a very important system in the Star Citizen universe. And you've got these giant super Earths that are able to be terraformed. They're in the green band. They have a jump point to Terra. Stanton essentially was a gold mine of a system. The UE immediately claimed the system and dispatched naval engineers to determine would be needed to make the 3 terrestrial planets habitable. Their eventual report brought bad news. The funds required to terraform these planets would be far more than the then cash-strapped government had available to them. And just as a reminder, let's see, so 2851. This is like 70, not even, barely 70 years after the fall of the Measures. The UEE is still struggling to recover at this point. They've gone through essentially the equivalent of a recession. It's just like any other toppling of a dictatorship and restructuring of a government in history here on Earth right now. There's a period of upheaval. Well, when it's something as massive as the UEE, the period of upheaval and the sort of settling process is something that really took decades. And there's still implications from that. So the UE sees these giant super Earth planets all within the green band, really close to Terra, and they're like, crap, we found this absolute gold mine of a system, but we can't afford to terraform it. And what do we do? While officials debated what to do, they gave the Navy authorization to construct a shipbuilding latticework on Stanton II, Crusader's upper atmosphere, and allowed engineers to begin preliminary terraforming activity on the other planets. Yeah, that's a good example, Shanksford Gills, the end of the USSR. Post-Soviet Russia is still absolutely struggles. The fall of Rome. The Vietnam, after we pulled out and North Vietnam took over. There's a long list of countries that in recent decades are still absolutely struggling, and they're small countries of handfuls of millions of people, and we're talking about essentially almost a galaxy-spanning empire with trillions upon trillions of people. By 2865, the UE Senate, facing a potentially recession-causing budget shortfall, announced that it would be selling each of the planets in the system to the highest bidders. Multiple megacorporations reached out to or were contacted by the UE government. After a long period of closed-door negotiations, 4 corporations emerged victorious. Closed-door negotiations. Makes you wonder what was going on behind closed doors. Like, obviously, these corporations paid for these planets, and really, not only did they pay for the planets, they paid for essentially what's called the planetary system. So the planet and the moons within the orbit of the planet. Essentially, everything within the orbit of the planet. So what other kickbacks or incentives did the UE get besides just cash from these mega corporations for these planets? And I think the other question to me that would be of relevance would be what other corporations were vying for ownership of these planets that didn't get to buy them for whatever reason, and what grudges might they still hold. Because this is 2865, so it's not even a century ago. And obviously, competition between mega corporations, especially within the same industry, is very cutthroat. I'm sure that the amount of corporate espionage and almost outright corporate warfare that we'll probably end up seeing in the Star Citizen universe is going to be not insubstantial. So maybe a Hurston competitor or an ArcCore competitor didn't get a planet, didn't get the bid. They were snubbed for whatever reason. So what grudges might they be having, and how might that foment into an ongoing conflict between these corporations, and what might that look like for players, especially with the reputation system? Because we don't have a whole lot of that. Like, when the reputation system becomes more fleshed out, we've got more corporations in game, more locations. If you're doing contracts for Crusader Industries, what other corporations that are their competitors is that going to negatively impact your reputation with? And that could all be largely stemming from the history, before these events and since then. And we don't know that yet. And that's going to have to get fleshed out by the narrative team. Hurston Dynamics, who purchased Stanton 1 and began major mining operations at once. Crusader Industries, who claimed Stanton 2 and its skeletal shipyards for the construction of their starliners, the Genesis. Because this is, if I remember correctly, this is pre-Hercules. And so at this point, they were still very much the Starliner was their key business line, the Starliner and shuttles. But they also, like, one thing that's really not well known is not only does Crusader, produce Genesis Starliners, essentially the, I hate to say Boeing, 737 or whatever, because, hopefully Crusader Starliners aren't losing their doors mid-flight. But Crusaders also owns essentially the equivalent, a Starline. And so they own and operate a Starline, and it's only been mentioned once in the lore surrounding Castra, the planet of Cascom and Sherman. Interesting tidbit there. Ark Corps, who immediately began developing Stanton 3 to support their diverse industries, and Microtech, who considered the Stanton 4's frigid climate as beneficial for cooling their extensive network of servers. Culture. In essence, the Stanton system is an enormous business park. While all who reside within it are protected under the UE common laws, the enforcement of these laws is left up to the private security forces each corporation employs. There is a UE military presence in Stanton, but it is not significant. And there's not like a unified, the advocacy has an office there, and people there, but it's not like there's a unified system defense structure like the Bremen Defense Force or something like that. There's no public, government operated law enforcement going on really outside of the advocacy there. And we really don't even know how significant the advocacy's presence is in Stanton in comparison to other systems. We know that they operate they operate, supervise the CDF, but we don't know much else about their dealings and operations in Stanton. Let's see. Nearly everyone in Stanton works for one of the 4 corporations or 4 companies that lease land or office space from them. Like on Ark Corps. Ark Corps, the corporation, only utilizes a small fraction of the planet for their own needs. The rest of the planet that has been developed is leased by other corporations. And for reference, the Ark Corps is actually not a ecumenopolis. It's not the planet itself is not entirely covered by structures and cities. There's actually oceans and mountain ranges, but essentially all flat usable land is covered in cities. On Hurston, for example, Hurston Dynamics' lax environmental policy has led to a polluted atmosphere and a low quality of life for its people. Conversely, Crusader Industries' commitment to design has transformed the once sparse Navy shipbuilding platforms into beautiful live workspaces with flowering trees. The leaders of Hurston Dynamics, Crusader Industries, Ark Corps, and Microtech hold the Stanton System Conference. This is the first time I've heard about this. This is good. Yeah, the prisoner, exactly. Yeah, we don't know the extent of the oceans and the mountains. So when they get around, the reason Stanton or Ark Corps looks the way it is because when they made the tech in order to be able to do the cities like that, they couldn't just tell it to stop here. It was all the planet or none of the planet. And so that's just the limitation of the tech, and eventually they're going to go back, refactor the tech, update Ark Core. It's planned. They've talked about it, I think, as recently as last year, in order to make it so that way it really, the mountains can be added, the oceans can be added, and such. So we don't know what sort of percentage of that surface area is flat, usable land that's covered in city, but it's a lot. And Microtech hold the Stanton System Conference once a year to discuss system-wide issues. Commonly discussed topics include regulations on imports and exports, who has jurisdiction over what parts of the Air and Halo, Stanton Belt Alpha, and strategies to deal with criminal activity. This part is interesting to me because it suggests that as far as we know, the gates that basically hold apart parts of the Air and Halo for it to be passable through are operated by Ark Core and owned by Ark Core. But when they say jurisdiction, I think what they're suggesting is that because the planets are, have different orbits, and they, the asteroid belt itself is orbiting as well, they're talking about, okay, who's responsible for law enforcement and enforcing the rules and regulations, like mining claims in the various parts of the Air and Halo, based off of proximity to the planet and their security forces. To me, this also suggests that there's probably not an insignificant pirate presence that hides within the Air and Halo. Something that we'll see in the future, especially with the advent of asteroid facilities and derelict ones being used as hidden asteroid bases. Interesting article about Stanton. As far as changes, I can't think of anything. I don't know if you guys have read the Galactic Guide before on Stanton. I can't think of anything that's changed. I remember Paul saying something, but I don't remember what he was talking about exactly. So, yeah. Okay, so let's get on to the short form articles. So, Korilaya, a multicultural city. – 0% chance I would read that. Only a Sith speaks in absolutes. Let's see. This is interesting because didn't we go over Ryla in? Yeah, so we went over the Ryla system, if I remember right, in the last Lore Equals gameplay. So this is talking about cities that are actually within the star system. And Ryla is a Xi'an star system, essentially on the galactic north from the UEE. It's a good size system at 36 AU. We'll get in here. So Korilaya is a major city on Xi, which is Ryla 5 in the Xi'an Empire. So let's zoom out. So here's Xi right here at the outer edge of the green belt of the Ryla system. Originally filled with barracks for soldiers and support staff. Yeah, because Ryla started out as a military focused system, kind of like Killian in the UEE. Pardon me. The prisoner, as far as the articles in the star map themselves, I don't believe the individual articles, like if you right click and we'll go to information, I don't think these have been updated, but for the most part, very little has changed. There a little bit of language things have changed and stuff, but not a whole lot. So there wouldn't be a whole lot to change. Now, what has been one big thing that has changed is the lore articles and everything on Pyro have changed, and everything within Pyro. But I think what they'll probably end up waiting to do is, instead of having to go in and manually update all of these, is when they sort of refactor how the star map operates on the web, they'll tie it in, so it'll just be a link, that it'll pull from the Galactapedia. So they're updating Galactapedia, and eventually, the information here will be automatically just pulled from the Galactapedia, so they don't have to hand jam the changes. But yeah, so the Ryla system was a military system. Think of kind of like how the Xi'an operate, kind of like how the Imperium of Man and 40K work, where there's like hive worlds and manufacturing worlds and the military worlds, that sort of thing. So, or they'll have entire star systems and planets devoted to a singular purpose. And so that's what Ryla was, is it was an entire star system that was devoted to the military for the Xi'an Empire. Originally filled with barracks for soldiers and support staff that worked and trained on neighboring planet Jolu. The city was reclassified as a residential zone by the Xi'an government after the end of the Xi'an-Human Cold War. It was additionally opened to non-Xi'an and has become a center of cultural exchange where Banu, human, and Tavaran intermingle with the Xi'an populace. Surrounded by dense tropical rainforests, it is lushly vegetated and stays warm throughout the entire year. And so we talked about this in the last Lore Equals gameplay, because this whole system really has become very geared towards trade between the Xi'an and the other species, particularly humanity. This planet G and the cities on it are very much a melting pot. And so not only are you going to have lots of opportunity to interact with the Xi'an there, but other groups and individuals from different species, like humanity and the Tavaran and such. But it is within the Xi'an Empire, and the Xi'an are very security minded. So in order to go to Ryla to have business dealings, to get contracts and stuff, that would be involved with being within this sort of trade focused system, you would have to have some sort of reputation with the Xi'an to even get here, and that would have to be essentially reputation by association with a sort of allied faction. I imagine this planet's going to be very pretty, though. Dense tropical rainforests and stuff, and it'll be really interesting to see how they do the what's the term? Oh gosh, architecture for the development of the city, because so much of its redevelopment was influenced by the other species coming in, and they sort of have different, almost like zones, like they intermingle, but it's almost like there would be like the human quarter over here, and the Tavaran are mostly over here. So interesting that they don't often talk specifically about cities in the Galactapedia and the Galactapedia updates. So the fact that they're talking about this, I remember reading about it when the original Galactic Guide for the system came out. They talked about it, but the fact that this is in here makes me think that it is very prominent within the game and their plans for the game and the Xi'an. A place of singular focus within the Xi'an Empire for players to visit for various reasons. Tree forts for the Tavaran, yeah. Yati, a multi-business city. Yati is a major city on Jolu, Ryla 4. So, where is it? And it's misspelled over here. I guess they changed, or that's how it's pronounced, I guess, maybe. In, butchered human English. But this is Ryla 4. A center of commerce and industry, the city was once a military manufacturing center, but was redeveloped after the end of the Xi'an-Human Cold War. Multiple human-owned corporations and Banu Sulis operate on Yati to facilitate easy trade with the Xi'an Empire. To continue to encourage economic development, the Xi'an government offers tax breaks to any major house willing to establish operations in Yati. Now, they say tax breaks to any major house, and the Xi'an have houses. Very almost medieval, kind of. But the question is, are those tax breaks extended to human corporations and Banu Sulis? How does that work? Would you as a player be incentivized for maybe forming your own corporation and headquartering it there if you wanted to have business dealings with the Xi'an? So something to think about, because guess what? Taxes are going to be in game. Blizzard, what did you say the other day? There's only two things that certain. You said three things certain in life: death of a spaceman, taxes, and I forget what the third thing you mentioned was. But there are going to be taxes in game, and as part of the whole money sink thing to prevent inflation of the in-game economy. All right, so yeah. This city is on Zhou. So let's keep reading. Ta'al system. Okay, so they talked about these two cities from the Ryla system, which we went over on the previous Lore Equals gameplay. And so now we're going to look at the Ta'al system, a color-coded planetary system. Using crayons, I'm sure. Death of the Taxman. Let's see. All right, so there it is, over here. So Ta'al is way over here, sort of in the galactic east, a decent ways away from where we are in Stanton over here. You can see here's the Taak system where the Ark is. So here's Ta'al, pretty deep into Xi'an space, or what we would consider known Xi'an space. But of note, you can see that it's connected via large jump points to Baker, and ultimately Baker to Keel, Keel to Hadrian, Hadrian to Terra, Castra. So big time substantial jump points for moving substantial ships. We don't know how that will break down in the future, but something to note. Whereas Ryla, even though it's a very trade heavy system, has a bit more of a circuitous route if you were to go use large jump points to get back to the UEE, because if you wanted to use large, you have to go over to Eolus, to Virtus, and then from here to Tohill, then through Nyx to get to Castra. There's really not an easy route with large jump points. But if you were to use medium, it gets a little bit easier because you can go directly to Gurzel and then a large jump point from Gurzel to Hadrian. So things to keep in mind. Now, obviously, this could change. They have changed jump point sizes in the past, not a lot that we know of, but they have made a few changes here and there to which jump points will be of what size. They've made changes to system sizes, placement of planets, the size of planets, what types of stars, all sorts of stuff over the years, but not huge major refactors, restructuring, or anything like that. So the Ta'al system, way over here in the Galactic East, is 12 AU. So right now Stanton is 5 AU. On the Galactapedia, Pyro is still 13, or the Starmap Pyro is 13, unless they changed it. But from the it still says 13. But from the Star Engine video at the beginning of the Star Engine, or not the beginning, but the Star Engine video, when you jump into Pyro, it says like 9.8 something AU. So we don't know. So the Ta'al system is a planetary system in the Xi'an Empire that consists of an A-type main sequence star, 1 mesoplanet, 4 terrestrial rocky planets, 1 super Earth, and 1 gas giant. Designed as a production system. So this would be like your manufactorum. Your if we're using the Imperium of Man metaphor, symbolism. I don't know what's the verbiage for that. Pardon me. Designed as a production system by the Xi'an government, each habitable planet has been zoned to handle a different type of economic activity. It is a major center of trade between the Xi'an Empire and the UEE, which makes sense given that there's those large jump points to help facilitate large-scale trade. Who were first notified of its existence in Standard Earth year 2789 after the signing of the Akari-Kray Treaty. In addition to their appointed functions, the populated planets of Ta'al were assigned distinct colors to incorporate into their architecture, giving each settlement a unified appearance that can be overwhelming to first-time visitors. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. If all the buildings and everything here is, various shades of yellow or something like that, it might be a little bit off-putting. Everybody drink. So let's get into the Ta'al system. So like Stanton, you have 4 planets within the green band. That's pretty impressive. Stanton is really unique like that and has the 4 planets on the green band in such a small system. All right, so let's keep reading about the Ta'al system. Yome, a hot cratered world. Yome, Ta'al 1, is the first planet from the sun of the Ta'al system, Xi'an Empire. A mesoplanet that closely orbits its star. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a mesoplanet is like Mercury. It is pockmarked with craters from countless mining probes that were dispatched to survey the planet for potentially valuable resources. While little has been found so far, raw materials are in such high demand from Ta'al's inhabited planets that missions to find heretofore undiscovered minerals are frequent. The atmosphere of Yome is dense enough that heat mirages can be observed rising from its surface during the day. Interesting. So if we're... are we still getting ads, chat? Sorry, I didn't realize. I really should be better about controlling the ads. I know they're a pain in the butt, but just know that if you are suffering through the ads, I appreciate you doing it and sticking with me, because watching the ads means that we're generating revenue for StackUp.org. So, and if you want to learn more, click on the link in the chat. Okay, cool, we're good. The prisoner, no, there has been no new info on joint point sizes. The only thing that we have that's super dated, really, is that the originally, and this is super old, the Freelancer was meant to be the largest ship that could go through a small jump point. So that's pretty tiny. Now, I think that's changed, but we don't know. When they're going to flesh that out, we don't know. They haven't changed the jump point size going from Stanton to Pyro, but we know that the Xenothreat is able to bring an Idris through it, and it's a medium. But there's only the 3 jump point sizes: small, medium, and large. And things like the Bengal and the Retribution exist. So I have not seen anything. If you find it, feel free to PM me on Discord or drop it in my Discord and ping me. By all means, I would love to see it. But if I have the thing set up in my Discord, it's in the Star Citizen News channel, so that it pulls everything from the Star Citizen News feed, and all dev posts from Spectrum and Reddit. And I read every single one. It's exhausting. But if every single one that I catch, and sometimes I miss things just because there's so many and you have to scroll back through them. But yeah, if you find something, please share it. Let me know. I want to hear it. That's part of why I enjoy talking to you guys about this sort of stuff, because I have one set of eyes and one brain, and many hands makes light work. And so if I can help make this more interesting to all of you and sort of plant that seed of curiosity, it helps make it so that way we have more people going out in search of this information. If you guys find something cool or interesting to share, I want to read it, and I want to be able to share it with everyone else in the community. And if that happens, I like to give credit too, and I'd like to do that in the streams, whether it's my personal streams or the podcast with Nazareth and the Armchair Admirals and Generals crew. Because it's important to give credit where credit's due. My life is all about citations, so yeah. So in terms of gameplay, they literally say the word survey here. And so because this planet here, or this star system, has such a significant demand for raw materials for production, obviously, a lot of the need is going to be just hauling in lots of raw materials or refined materials in order to meet their production needs. But along with that, I can guarantee you that there would be contracts from the Xi'an to go and survey, continually survey this planet in order to look for new mineral resource veins, I guess you'd say, deposits. And this, plays right into what Paul has always said that exploration is going to be. It's going to be, updating maps. Well, you're not necessarily updating the map of this planet, but you're going to continue to scan it and do deep scans and send out probes to see if anything was missed in order to try and find more easily accessible resources for the system to use. So yeah. As for the heat mirages, maybe that's just a cool thing that they want to have added in game, or maybe it's something that would impact your visibility on the planet if you're flying in the atmosphere. I don't know, something to think about. Let's see, where are we? Oilja? I don't know how that's pronounced. Yellow planet. Oilja is the second planet. I'm sure I'm butchering this, and Jail, if you ever watch these, I apologize for butchering Xi'an. I just don't have time to learn it like you do. Sorry, learn it as good as you do. But we appreciate the efforts to translate and understand Xi'an, both their culture and their language. The technological heart of Ta'al, its government-assigned function is to fabricate spacecraft, from large-scale ships to advanced ship components to avionics software. It is densely populated. Yeah, and the constant influx of resources and outflow of products makes it the most frequently visited planet in the system. Interesting. Its yellow-accented architecture has earned it the nickname The Hive from human visitors. Famed musician Cindo Guerrero's record-breaking hit song "Sunkissed" was inspired by the buildings of Oilja. Pardon me. Sorry for clearing my throat, but whenever we do these and I'm talking a lot, it always just makes my throat tickle and I have to clear it a lot. I'm not used to talking so much. So obviously, like we talked about, there's going to be a huge demand for cargo haulers to bring stuff here for the means of production. Whether this, the production of things like this, means that they are also sold and available for purchase on the planet, I don't know. But I definitely, I think the low-hanging fruit in terms of lore equals gameplay is bringing probably most likely refined materials for the use of production, because they don't talk about much in the way of they don't mention refining specifically, but probably refined metals and minerals and such to be used in the means of production, but also if they talk about the production of ships, but also components and avionics software. So you would probably have the opportunity to ship components from here, finished components, to markets essentially, and maybe data running. If they're talking about software, I could see transporting code to here from other places to be incorporated into the production of software, as well as transporting finished code to market and other other locations. I'm going to turn off the mic for a second, hold my breath, get rid of these hiccups. Thanks for goes. I really appreciate the feedback, and I take it as a compliment. That's really nice of you to say that. I like to think of it as this is a supplement to what Paul does, and others, but in particularly Paul, because Paul will do deep dives, and Paul, with his background, is specifically trained to be able to take all these different things and put it in a contextual picture, as well as discern other meanings from them that those of us who don't have that education, that training, that background wouldn't necessarily think about. Like Paul is constantly saying things in lore where I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because it's not natural for me to think about it, because like my day job is medicine. I'm not a historian. I am not a teacher. I teach a lot of medicine, but I don't teach history. I just find this stuff interesting. And so I like to present this because doing so, I follow the development of Star Citizen, in great detail with Nazareth. We look at the development of all sorts of things, from gameplay mechanics to the technology that they're developing, to tools and stuff like that. And so I'm able to take what Nazareth and I do and couple it with reading the lore in order to sort of put these into context. Who knows when we're going to get this system, but it's not always systems that are far off, but it's things to keep in mind, because you might see similar things in the lore about other systems, and because it's they're not all super unique. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I hope you'll join me in the future. We'll be back on Monday to do the January Galactapedia update. And occasionally I will look at other articles as they come out, or I do need to do one. I like to do the Lore Makers community questions, because those are usually has some good tidbits in them. If you want to learn more about regeneration, a lot of the information about regeneration doesn't just come from that regen post that they did, what was it, almost 2 years ago now? But there's been multiple times where they've addressed questions about regeneration within the Lore Makers community posts that really put it into context, and nobody reads those. So if you're looking for more good information, check those out. Do not sleep on those. Some of it is just good trivia, but a lot of it is, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that helps put that into context. So I won't cover that on Monday, but I'm hopefully going to do another one of these. It might not happen this week, maybe the following week, because Hellfinder or Helldivers 2 comes out this week. But I do need to cover the one that they did. Gosh, was that in December? Oof, I'm behind. I think they usually do them once a quarter. So yeah, let's see here. Oh yeah. Oh gosh, Lungji? Violet planet. Oh, whoops, didn't mean to do that. All right, so Lung Ji Tal 3 is the third planet from the sun of the Tal system Xi'an Empire. Dedicated to the production of food and textiles, its vibrant culinary and fashion scenes draw a steady stream of visitors to the planet. High-end dining establishments on Lungji craft intricate culinary creations that can be sampled nowhere else, all sourced from the myriad farms that cover the lush countryside. The textiles produced on Lungji's violet-accented cities inform trends across both the Xi'an Empire and the UEE. You can cover it now. Just got here. Okay, I thought I missed something in chat. Oh, my Ark 07, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us this evening. Okay, so again, this to me, obviously because this is a production system, we're going to be bringing stuff in and taking stuff out, and so food as it's produced here, both raw food material, so your grains and such, will probably be taken from here to be used elsewhere, but also finished food products could be taken here and taken here, picked up here and taken elsewhere, as well as clothes and such. So there's going to be a lot of cargo hauling coming and going. It's interesting that they mention the dining establishments and culinary creations sampled here and nowhere else. I'd think that this is hinting at people transport. And so to me, this says that there's going to be a tourist scene for your foodies who are going to want to come here and sample the cuisine that's produced here in these cities. So you're going to have people from the UEE, Xi'an, from the Xi'an Empire, who are going to want to come here essentially to go on a food trip. And you're going to want to transport them probably in style. You're probably not going to bring foodies via your cutlass steel. And so that's something to think about. You might also, they say they craft intricate culinary creations that can be sampled nowhere else. So to me, these are essentially rare goods. And maybe people don't want to come all the way here to eat them. They want to have them brought to them. Essentially these are delicacies. And so they've talked about with cargo transport, where there will be things that you have to keep in a certain condition, whether it's cold or hot, what have you. And so I could see specialized transport in order for, and especially time transport to say, hey, there's some rich person on some UE planet that wants this for their corporate gala, and you need to bring them this many SCU of this in this amount of time, and in order to keep it fresh and tasty, it has to be kept in these type of containers. It's a very specialized cargo transport mission, and that's what I would expect from this sort of thing. People don't really have a cutlass steel though. Everybody shits on the cutlass steel. The cutlass steel is a great ship. It just hasn't found its stride yet because it's going to be the bargain drop ship in terms of operating. Because the anvil, military grade, all that, it's going to be expensive to operate. It's going to be a gas hog. It's going to be costly to maintain. Same thing with the Prowler. But the cutlass steel, maintaining that thing, operating that thing out on the fringe, you're going to be able to get parts easy. You're going to be able to repair it easily. Be able to slap any type of aluminum tinfoil on there to patch holes and such. Everybody shits on the cutlass steel, but it's just the bargain basement drop ship. It's going to do the job. Not going to do it great, but it'll do the job. Cannot bedlog on Prowler like others. Sad. Yep. The Prowler is definitely a very niche drop ship. Actually, I'm gonna hold on, shameless plug, because I know some of you are new to my content and new to the channel, but I did a video. So I'm eventually going to be doing a video on dropship operations, but I did a video on boarding operations. And what most people don't know is, even though the Prowler is called a dropship, it's a boarding craft that also doubles as a dropship. And so if you want to learn more about the Prowler, there's a little bit of history about the Prowler in that video. I'm sorry that my microphone audio and everything isn't great in that video. I did it while I was on active duty at Fort Rucker, Fort Novacell, and so I didn't have all of this that I have in front of me. I had my laptop and my mic, and I didn't have much ability to control the sound, but I threw that video together because I had downtime when I was at school. So check that video out. Hope you enjoy it. I do have plans for more videos, but I'm a busy guy, and so eventually maybe I'll get to them. But I'm definitely going to do a a dropship operations video, a video on medical ops. Yeah, I did it in the barracks. Well, I mean, it was the hotel, the transient hotel. The Holiday Inn there. And the other video I really want to do is, the working title is Star Citizen is a colony sim, change my mind. Because resource management and quantum is basically just RimWorld, but Star Citizen. That's all it is. Congratulations, you are a colonist in Star Citizen RimWorld. Alright, so moving on. That's the Violet planet. So that one was, let's see, this is 1, 2, 3, so third planet. 1, 2, 3. This one right here, sort of in the middle of the green band. Lixao. Maybe I'm saying that right? I don't know. Green planet. Lixao, Taal 4, is the fourth planet from the sun of the Taal system Xi'an Empire. Naturally habitable, so apparently didn't require any terraforming or limited. The acid already present in Lixao's atmosphere convinced officials to make it the home of processing facilities, refineries, and other pollution-causing infrastructure. Ugh.
Part of the crew.
Startled.
Part of the ship.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Part of the crew.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Mr. Pie 88, thank you so much for the follow. Thanks for the support. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us this evening. Hope you're doing well. If I ever filmed anything at the barracks, it would have to be jeez. Well, I mean, there's no video of me. It's just B-roll and images. That's what I do for my videos. I think I only have one video maybe where it even shows my face. It's all just, I try to find B-roll and pictures that are relevant to the different segments within the videos that I'm talking about. So yeah, because if you're watching the video, you don't want to see me. You want to see the goods. You want to see the pictures, the spaceships and the starscapes and such. All right, so apparently Lixao is very much Hurston, or even Arcor. Processing facilities, refineries, and other pollution-causing infrastructure. Xi'an employed as haulers and refinery workers make up a large percentage of the population. Although it is the least visited planet in Taal, the working-class food stalls that can be found outside nearly all of the planet's green-tinted factories attract tourists seeking Xi'an street fare. Okay, so again, you're going to have your food tourists coming here. Obviously going to be a whole lot of hauling going on, because what you're going to be hauling is going to differ. It's probably going to be raw materials to take to the processing facilities and the refineries, and then taking away those refined materials, those sort of not finished goods, but finished materials for manufacture, away from there. But it also makes me wonder, especially in places like this, if you are an engineer in Star Citizen, if you might be able to take on maintenance contracts for facilities on these production worlds for the Xi'an, to do work on those facilities to keep them working. Because just like, and that's why I mention Star Citizen as a colony sim, because your colonists in RimWorld, Stranded Alien Dawn is one of my favorites if you're into colony sims. Your colonists, one of the things they always have to do is they have to maintain the little production nodes. They have to move the resources to the production node. They have to do the process to make the resource that comes out of that, but they also have to maintain that means of production. We have all of that in we don't have it in Star Citizen, but that's part of resource management. That's part of the plan. That's what they're going to be bringing into the game. And so you're going to have that as gameplay, not only in order, your player base for producing things. You're going to have to do an operation at your facility to get it to produce the thing. You're going to have to bring it the raw resources it needs to produce the thing. You're going to have to maintain it so it can continue to produce the thing. Well, you're not only going to be able to do that for your base, but you're also going to be able to do that for NPC faction facilities, whether they're factories on planets, space station, refineries and such, all of that. So something to keep in mind, because that sort of work will be available to you. You could be a traveling engineer, with really high reputation, because you're good at the mini game of doing maintenance. Ryol. Open. There we go. No cooking gameplay yet. And honestly, I don't know if I want to cook Xi'an food, because they're like carrion feeders. They like food, like rotting, spoiled meats and fermented beverages. Like they oh gosh, what's that crap my wife drinks? That's fermented and just always smells awful to me. Oh, come on, Galactapedia. Maybe if I open this and then go to the... Okay, we want... Are you gonna work? Kombucha. Yes, kombucha. I hate that stuff. It's gross. Right. Beer. That's the end of my beer. It was the last one I had in the fridge. Humans do eat somewhat rotten food too. Other humans, not me. It's my favorite mug. I love this mug. A buddy of mine from my old unit had these made. So that's the emblem from my old unit, the original one. From when I was a Marine a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So, Ryol, Ta'al 5, is the 5th planet from the sun of the Ta'al system, Xi'an Empire. A center of product manufacturing. Its most prominent economic activity is the construction of weapons. Ooh. The Xi'an military maintains a strong presence on Ryol. Ah, that's interesting as well. Simultaneously protecting sensitive information pertaining to arms development. Pardon me. Burp. Sensitive information pertaining to arms development and enforcing order. All buildings on the planet sport orange accents, giving them a fiery appearance in correct lighting conditions. So, this is important. Because this planet is primarily the production of weapons, In order to come to this planet, especially because it has a strong Xi'an military presence, you're going to have really good rep with the Xi'an. Not everyone is going to be able to just waltz on in there and be like, oh yeah, I'll bring this stuff to you. No. You're essentially going to have the proper clearance, and it's going to be pretty high. The other thing is simultaneously protecting sensitive information. I would be willing to bet that there's going to be essentially the equivalent of espionage going on here, and there's going to be the opportunity to get tasked with stealing data, stealing information, as well as probably legal contracts to transport information to and from, but also illegal contracts to steal information from the Xi'an. And woe to you if you get caught. So yeah, that's where I think of the lore equals gameplay going with this planet in particular. And obviously there's going to be the movement of arms and such, and they will probably have I would be willing to bet not only do you have to have a certain amount of reputation, but they might have certain requirements for the secure transport of the weapons that you are transporting. Like they might require you to have a certain number of escorts. How they would measure that in game, I don't know, but that's something I foresee being potentially feasible. You can't just waltz in with your caterpillar and take a whole cat full of highly specialized military grade Xi'an weapons off the planet and run the risk of them being stolen. They'd want assurances. So and then so Ryle would be this planet, and interesting they haven't updated the names. Ooh, I feel the sneeze coming on. All right, so is that an L? Chuaitan? Desolate planet. I thought I had a sneeze coming on. I guess not. Didn't pan out. What is with these links? Sorry, 1 second. Let's see, how did I do that before? Oh, I went to the system. Come on, Galactapedia, don't fail me now. Not in the middle of an episode. RSI is under heavy load right now. What? Okay, here we go. So we want... Nope. Stop. That's all we wanted. This guy. Does saying bless you before a sneeze make it go away? I don't know. Maybe it worked. It's having a hard time. It's a Saturday night. What the heck's going on with the website? Good grief. Come on. I'm just looking at the Galactapedia. How many people are looking at the Galactapedia? There we go. Okay. Chuaitan, I don't know if I'm saying it right, is the 6th planet from the sun of the Ta'al system Xi'an Empire. Uninhabitable but rich in resources, its mineral deposits have historically helped to support all of the system's industries. In the early 30th century, its mining operations began to report sharply dwindling takes, leading to an economic slowdown that came dangerously close to causing a system-wide recession. Ooh. Multiple industries in Ta'al now rely largely on imports to continue functioning. So, it says it's rich in resources, but Some apparently it probably means that some mining operations, maybe for specific things, are seeing dwindling takes. So this to me is obviously, hey, you as a miner, if you have appropriate reputation with the Xi'an, can go here and get contract to work. You know, this is not going to be solo mining. You're not going to just show up onto this planet and go mine on your own. The Xi'an would be like, no, this is ours. Fuck you. But you'll be able to mine under contract. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand about Star Citizen is a lot of the mining is going to be done under contract. You're not going to be mining for yourself and then taking to the refinery and refining it and selling it directly. You're going to get a contract from Shubin Interstellar to go to this node or mining claim and mine a certain amount of resources for them and bring it back there, and they will pay you. Is there still going to be independent mining? Yep, independent mining is going to happen, but it's, you know, just remember that with how much of the universe is controlled, just remember that a lot of that controlled space is going to be owned and operated by someone else. And in order to do independent mining, you're going to either have to go someplace where no one is, or you're going to have to own a claim of your own. So you're going to have to front money of your own to buy the claim to, you know, mine the resources there, or it's going to have to be unclaimed, which means it's probably going to be someplace where there's no security. I have petty dictators in real life. It's not a dictator. I mean, you're still mining. You know, it's no different than what you're doing now. It's just you're not doing the refining and selling process, and you can still go do that, but it's not going to be. It's just like with hauling now, and everybody. You know, we have trading now. That's not going to be the majority of what you're going to be doing. Very little of what you're going to be doing as a hauler is going to be buying and selling. You're going to be hauling under contract. They specifically demonstrated that in the first quantum presentation. Everything that was getting moved around was under contract, and we're going to be getting competing with NPCs for those contracts. SC is going to get harder. Right now, you can't own a claim. It's not available in game. It's not a thing. The claims have always been there, but there isn't, as far as I'm aware, we don't have the jobs to go and mine at a claim for someone and get paid for the claim, but not do the whole refining and selling of the resource. But Shubin Interstellar is just one of many big mining corps, and they have their own employees who mine for them and refine for them, but they also use contractors. CR wasn't kidding when you call it SC a Souls-like game. But if you look at every gameplay loop in Star Citizen, if you think about how it's done in real life, that's how it's going to be done in game, just gamified to an extent. Medical gameplay, same effing thing. I can explain every last aspect of that to you, how that's going to work, and they've talked about it in the lore. There's a lot of lore for it that people aren't aware of, so manage your expectations appropriately. So obviously, and these contracts, like, you could be filling these contracts for resources with your own mining operations. It wouldn't have to be just you hauling somebody else's, mined goods. Shubin, hauling for Shubin to here. If you have your own mining operation, and you mine and refine your own goods, you can help fulfill the contracts for these imports that they're talking about. But just know that the bulk of these contracts will be filled by you hauling on somebody else's behalf. And if you're, or you mining on this planet on somebody else's behalf, whether it's via ship or by hand. Because one thing that a lot of people have glazed over, but I think it's ship mining. But what do you think underground the UGFs are? They have talked about specifically about UGFs, having mining and refining focused UGFs, and being able to connect the UGF to the cave systems. And if you don't think that there aren't going to be contracts for you to go down into the UGF and then walk into the cave system or drive a rock into a cave system and collect X number of whatever to bring back and dump in the bin and then have it be refined, you're on drugs. That's a big part of what the UGFs are going to be for. There's going to be underground manufacturing, above ground manufacturing, and there's going to be underground hand mining, bring your space canary with you. So yeah. Okay, so Caillou now, yellow, violet, green, and orange planet. Oh man. Caillou now is the outermost planet from the sun of the Ta'al system, a gas giant. It has 4 thick bands of yellow, violet, green, and orange clouds. That's going to be a really interesting gas giant to see. And orange clouds that flow across its prismatic atmosphere. Caillou now's appearance informed the Xi'an government's decision to give each of the inhabited planets a specific color to incorporate into its architecture. Okay, so it's going to be pretty to look at. Maybe there's going to be some tourism there as well, since you're already bringing tourists, the foodies. Maybe you make a pit stop on your way in or on your way out to go gawk at the gas giant. What they don't specifically say, and they do specifically mention frequently, is whether the gases within that gas giant are suitable for thruster fuel, for making fuel out of. So maybe there is gas collection and refining operations around this gas giant. Maybe not. We don't know. But usually they specifically mention it. So the next system here in the Galactapedia update is the Hayotan system. And this is the home system of the Xi'an people. And guess what? The only thing that's mentioned in here are the planets. But if we look at the Ta'al system, it also mentions the jump point locations. So we know, based off of looking at what jump points it has and where else it's connected, we can figure out where it is in the universe. We don't know where Hayotan is. And Hayotan is not visible on the star map. See, here's where it becomes Banu space, the Banu Protectorate. And here are the Xi'an systems. I don't see Hayotan. Now, some of these the names have changed or they're pronounced or said differently. But there's nothing that looks really, Hadur. No, Yaman's we've done the Galactapedia update on that one. So we don't know, unless I'm wrong, and I could be, but we don't know where the Xi'an home system is. I don't know, maybe only a few humans have ever been there under very close guard and like they're blindfolded or whatever. Don't know. Shampasa says, so if we have all these systems and jump points mapped out, how do players find new planets and jumping? Finding new planets and new jump points is going to be a super rare occurrence. Yeah. We might find some new, we might find new jump points connecting known systems. And because you can imagine how if you found a large jump point to a system where it, maybe, imagine if you found a large jump point that connected Ryla, which is a big trade system, to Oya. We already know it has a small to Horus and a medium to Gurzel. And if you connected Ryla to Oya, how much shorter that route would be back to the UEE, and especially the central part of the UEE, versus going all the way around over here to Tohil, and what that would do for haulers in the galactic economy, what sort of changes that would make, how valuable that jump point would be. Now, I firmly believe that we will get new star systems added to the game and players will have the opportunity to find them, but it'll be really rare. But with the tools that CIG has, their ability to make a new star system that's blank, like essentially like there's, maybe one habitable world or something like that, and a bunch of other random planets and stuff and asteroid belts, they could do that really easily because a lot of the work goes into putting the the civilization there, space stations, cities, outposts, asteroid facilities, underground facilities, all that sort of stuff. And so if you have a blank new planet, that takes a whole lot of work off of CIG's plate for them in terms of implementing it. So I could see them easily making a handful of those to be released over time, but it's going to be super rare and super difficult. But there's like Paul always says, a lot of exploration is going to be, these systems are big. There's a lot of uncharted aspects of these systems, and just because a planet has been scanned doesn't mean it's been explored. Doing a orbital scan doesn't explore the planet. There's going to be plenty of exploration on the surface of the planets to be done for sure. The Pathfinders would have done system surveys and stuff and limited exploration, but in terms of surveying every square inch of a planet, it just wouldn't have happened unless it was really necessary. And you have all this vast empty space within star systems that hasn't been charted, along with like things like Nix. Nix is supposed to be essentially a star system that's within almost like a nebula or partially surrounded by a nebula. Blizzard said, did they talk about it on the podcast? Who? Who talked about what on a podcast? Oh, okay, so here, I'm going to pull up the link. It's pretty relevant to this point of conversation, but here, I know what one you're talking about. Hold on. Was it a scanner anomaly or a spectrum pulse? Here we go. So this one's called Can Explorers Really Strike It Rich? And it's only about 40 minutes. It's from a podcast we did a while back. Take a listen to it. Check out the citations, because I think that this is the way that explorers, you're win the lottery. And there's a lot of mentions of these sorts of things happening in the lore. And I think this sort of thing will happen more frequently than finding new star systems, but there are mentions of explorers finding new jump points, new star systems connecting star systems, but the occasional new star. So I do think it is going to happen because there are multiple mentions where explorers have found new star systems and they didn't immediately hand it over to the UEE. They used it for their own designs. What is that? Right. Let's see. What was I doing? Okay. Oh yeah, Hyoten. Okay, so we don't know where the Xi'an home system is. I need to drink some water. Pardon me for 1 second. Yeah, Magellan didn't make money. Most explorers, you are not going to make a lot of money. You are not going to get rich. You're going to have to do a lot of just scanning jobs. Go to this planet and explore this cave, scan this region of the surface of the planet. Go down to here on this moon and scan it. Scan this patch of empty space over here that hasn't been charted. But it isn't going to be, if you think about it, this is the known universe after like 900 years of space exploration. We are not going to be finding new star systems very frequently. So, the Hyoten system is a planetary system in the Xi'an Empire that consists of an F-type main sequence star, 4 terrestrial planets, and a super-Earth. You don't have to be rich to you don't have to be rich to explore, but it's certain if all you're wanting to do is go explore and you're not going to be taking contracts to go do exploration on somebody's behalf, do scanning and sample gathering and stuff on someone's behalf, you're going to have some backing. The birthplace of the Xi'an people, it is the center of political power in the Xi'an Empire. Ka'ua, Hyoten 4, the present capital, is the seat of the emperor. And the jungle world, Tethlea, is the home of some of the most powerful houses. The former Xi'an capital and homeworld of the Xi'an, Raixian, was abandoned in the last days of the Great Divide when an assassination attempt perpetrated by House Klo inadvertently set off a chain reaction that rendered the atmosphere toxic. Well, and if you think about what explorers in the Antarctic are doing. They are funded by governments and by research organizations that are either themselves funded by governments or by universities and their endowments. So yeah, that's the Hyoten system. These are the names of the planets. So we'll leave that up. Let's see, Tethyang, associated with joy and abundance. Is it though? Tethyang is the first planet from the sun of the Hyoten system, Xi'an Empire. Given the name Fire World by ancient Xi'an astronomers, the soil on Tethyang's surface is deep rust in color, making the planet appear to be a red star when observed from the surface of the Xi'an homeworld. It is associated with joy and abundance in Xi'an myth and was thought to aid in the quality of fermentation. Pictograms of Tethyang, traditionally drawn as a 9-pointed star, are still used to decorate fermentation vessels. Yeah, go find some gold. So yeah, as far as lore equals gameplay goes, for Tethyang, I can't think of anything other than maybe a little bit of sightseeing, but not a whole lot to go on there. Tethlea, the seat of many ancient and powerful houses. Oh, Marco Polo? Fermentation ships, yeah. Tethlea is the second planet from the sun of the Hyoten system Xi'an Empire. From the surface of the Xi'an homeworld, it is the brightest star in the sky and was associated with intelligence and clarity of thought in ancient Xi'an myths. The second world to be successfully terraformed by the Xi'an, it has a hot and humid climate that supports a vibrant ecosystem. The area around the equator is especially sweltering and as a result is less populated than the more temperate regions beyond the tropics. The still very hot climate in these areas is nearly identical to that of Rixian before it was rendered uninhabitable at the end of the Great Divide, and is seen as a very desirable place to reside. Many ancient and prestigious houses maintain seats of power on Tethlia. Okay, so the houses within the Xi'an, each house essentially has like a job, a thing that they do, that they're known for, that they specify in, and so I think of Tethlia as like a destination location in order to meet with really high ranking, pardon me, really high ranking Xi'an NPCs in order to get sort of top tier contracts as you're leveling up your reputation with those specific houses for whatever it is that they do. You know, if you really want to interact with the Xi'an and you want to get high rep with them, you want to get the best paying jobs and the things that grant you the best rewards, this is where you're eventually going to end up. You know, that sort of end game to meet with the whatever Xi'an equivalent is of a well, it wouldn't be a lord because they're a matriarchal society, but baroness maybe, for a specific house that you've been working your way up the chain with. So it would be a destination for that, as well as you'll probably be getting a whole lot of transportation contracts to move people to here who want to live here, but also coming and going, you know, these very important Xi'an. Let's see. Rixian, the homeworld of the Xi'an. Raixian is the third planet from the sun of the Hyoten system, and is the homeworld of the Xi'an people. Once a lush world teeming with life, its atmosphere was accidentally tainted with poison by House Klo. Is that Klo? Yeah. During an assassination attempt gone awry, killing millions and forcing its remaining inhabitants to flee to the nearby colony world Ka'ua, Hyoten 4. This event abruptly ended the ongoing civil war and forced the Xi'an to reassess their culture. Now classified as a smog planet, Raixian has resisted all terraformation attempts, and little life remains beneath its toxic clouds. So to me, I think the best example for lore equals gameplay would be to go, you know, you'd have to be specially equipped to go into the atmosphere and go down to the surface of this planet, being that it's a smog planet. It's like Venus. And so taking samples and doing science gameplay in order to try and help the Xi'an figure out a way to terraform their home world and make the atmosphere habitable again. As well as maybe going back to ruins and recovering artifacts and pieces of their history. That could be gameplay associated with that planet. Let's see, where are we? Ka'ua, the center of Xi'an power. Ka'ua is the fourth planet from the sun of the Hyoten system, Xi'an Empire, the heart of the Xi'an government. It is the home of the Emperor and the Imperial House's Council of Three, and is the nerve center of the civil service. Originally uninhabitable, it was the first world chosen to be terraformed by the Xi'an, partially due to its association with good luck and harmony in ancient Xi'an mythology. It played a vital role as a refuge for the Xi'an population when they were forced to flee their original homeworld, Raixian, at the end of the Great Divide. Yeah, Councils of Tree. So this is their seat of government. This is their soul, their earth. So if you're, you know, again, sort of end game Xi'an gameplay, but from less of a sort of corporate perspective, but more in terms of getting reputation, contracts, jobs with the Xi'an government itself and the Xi'an civil service. And this is where you need to go to meet with, you know, specific people. Obviously, there's always going to be hauling involved to bring populations the things that they need. But I could also see a whole lot of transportation of Xi'an, and potentially, maybe if you get in really good with the UEE, you might have the ability to transport UEE diplomats or high-ranking members of UEE corporations who have come here to, do trade deals and such to this world. What does that say? Tethtam? Associated with emptiness and time. Tethtam is the farthest planet from the sun of the Hyotan system Xi'an Empire. An orange and cream-colored gas giant, it has an atmosphere of hydrogen and helium, and is the main source of fuel in Hyotan. Okay, so there we go. Very explicit that you would likely, if you have appropriate reputation with the Xi'an, you would be going here with your Starfarer or whatever other fuel type ships we get in order to collect gases to transport them to refineries for fuel. It symbolized emptiness and time in ancient Xi'an mythology and came to be associated with Laitova after the philosophy was encoded into imperial law at the beginning of the First Imperial Age. Tethtam is orbited by a Laitova temple. Aha, that was made with a large viewport that always faces the planet. Okay, so this is some place where you could, again, also, beyond just going here to get fuel, to collect gases for the production of fuel, you could also be transporting Xi'an and maybe even humans and such to this temple for pilgrimages, as well as potentially just for tourist stuff to see a Laitova temple, in orbit of a gas giant that's probably pretty photogenic since it has that viewport. Ahmad Harar co-discovered the Kai Pua Horus jump point. Okay, so now we're getting into people and organizations and away from star systems and planets. Ahmad Harar, born standard Earth year 2595, death 2699, lived to be 104, was a pilot and lieutenant in the UE Navy, best known for discovering the Kai Pua Horus jump point alongside fellow starman Carl Dyson. In standard Earth year 2617, so 22 years old, Harar was patrolling the Horus system with his gunner, Lieutenant Dyson, when they detected a gravitational anomaly that they determined to be a jump point after hours of analysis. Harar convinced Dyson to navigate it instead of reporting it to headquarters, arguing that this was their chance to earn a place in history. However, when they exited the jump point, they found themselves in a Xi'an-controlled system and were quickly captured. Oops. Harar and Dyson were held captive and interrogated by the Xi'an government for 3 full days. They finally convinced their captors that the rest of the human military was unaware of the jump point and were returned to Horus and told to transmit the message that any UE vessels spotted in Kaipua would be attacked on sight. Harar was reprimanded for failing to report his discovery to his commander and accepted a demotion. He went on to serve for 30 more years and retired as a captain in 2647. Let's see. Carl Dyson, winner of 2 Alira awards. So he was the gunner. Oh, don't tell me this is going to work. Maybe it's got a link in here. Oh, here we go. Can I click to it from there? Come on, load. Load. Refresh. There we go. All right, Carl Dyson, born standard Earth year 2593, died 2701, lived to be 108. Was a gunner and lieutenant in the UAE Navy and musician, best known for discovering the Kaipua Horus jump point alongside fellow starman Ahmad Harar. I got an ad for WWE Wives. Oh gosh. In standard Earth year 2617, he and his pilot, Lieutenant Harar, were patrolling the Horus system when they detected a gravitational anomaly. Blah, blah, blah. Same thing we just read. Dyson was reprimanded for failing to report his discovery to his superiors. Instead of accepting a demotion, Dyson requested and was granted an honorable discharge. He then emigrated to Earth to pursue his lifelong dream of becoming a musician. His most notable album, Twilight on the Firing Line, earned 2 Alira Awards. Interesting. Not much to do with lore equals gameplay and knowing these things. It's just good. It's just history. The Central Core Bank, responsible for regulating the UEC. So this is the Star Citizen equivalent of the Federal Reserve, like we have in the U.S. The Central Core Bank is the bank that maintains the reserves necessary to financially back the United Earth credit, the official currency of the United Empire of Earth. It was founded in standard Earth year 2528 by experts from various financial markets who were brought in by the United Planets of Earth to create and administer monetary policy, conduct foreign exchange operations, and monitor the banking sector. The Central Core Bank is one of the largest financial organizations in the UAE and still oversees the regulation of the UEC. I think it's important to note that no matter how friendly you are with aliens, there will still be no-go areas. Yeah, definitely. There's going to be, we just looked at the Hyoten system. And we don't even know where it is. We don't know if we will be allowed to go there. We know about it, but will we be allowed to go there? There's been mention in other articles about other locations within the Xi'an that it's strictly off limits. It's still, they still have military planets that are off limits to outsiders and such. With the Central Core Bank, this is just giving you some context that if you go to like the space stations and the landing zones, you'll see the ATMs for the Central Core Bank. The question is, will there be other banks? Because it says right here, there's a tag for banks and financial institutions, which suggests that there might be more. So there might be banking in game. You might have the opportunity to deposit your UEC at a different financial institution with different pros and cons. We don't know. And the availability of funds. There isn't instant communication within Star Citizen. And so there is still going to be hard currency. You're going to have to, if you have, you're going to have to do things in order to move your money from one place to another. It isn't just it's not like today where you have access to all your money within a moment's notice because we have real-time communication essentially across the entire planet. It doesn't work like that in the Star Citizen universe. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out and what implications it has for your money in Star Citizen and where you have access to it and how you access it. Last article of the evening. The Drop Kings, not actually royalty despite the name. I'm pretty sure these are a gang. I think I've heard about it before. There we go. Yep. So, the Drop Kings are a major criminal syndicate that is active in multiple systems across the UEE. Founded in the 2640s by a group of anti-Mezzer activists who fled their homes under threat of retaliation from the Mezzer government, their earliest recorded crimes were in the Fora system, where they ran black market goods manufactured on Hyperion Fora 3 to Terra 3, via a route through the Tyrannus system. When they began smuggling goods and people to and from Banu space in the 2690s, they quickly rose to prominence and expanded their network to more systems. In the 2740s, they entered the Pyro system and clashed with the fellow smuggling group, the Headhunters. Beginning in 2781, the Drop Kings abruptly stopped this conflict and began to focus on smuggling goods across the borders of the UEE, leading historians to speculate that they were involved in transporting anti-Mezzer refugees to Banu and Xi'an territories. They returned to business as usual in 2799 and launched an attack on Ruin Station, ousting the Headhunters from power and becoming the de facto rulers of the Pyro system. Control of Pyro passed back and forth between the Drop Kings and Headhunters until 2912, when the Drop Kings became involved in a feud with the Terra-based Rangda Syndicate. Since then, they have dialed back their activities in Pyro, but are known to maintain operations in the Fora, Castra, and Elysium systems. So this is a huge expansion of what we know in regards to various criminal factions within the Star Citizen universe. Because we have a few in Stanton, with the Ninetails and the Dusters, and I forget what else. We have multiples that are known about in Pyro. We know that it says right here that they have dialed back their activities in Pyro, but they may still be active. And so we don't know to what extent they continue to operate in Pyro, just that they've only dialed back their activities, but that they do maintain operations in Fora, Castra, and Elysium, which Elysium is the name of formerly Jalan, which is the Tavaran home system. But they're also in Castra. And I have hypothesized, and we did I did a scanner anomaly for the Pathfinders podcast. I've hypothesized that the Castra system will be the next one to come into game after Odin from Squadron 42, and Nyx being next for PU development. Fora is a bit of a ways away. But I think that this might be further evidence to suggest that the Drop Kings, being a criminal organization in Castra, I think this is might also lend weight to the theory that Castra might be one of the next systems to be added to the PU. They also say that they were anti-Mezzer. They're primarily smugglers, so primarily going to be smuggling gameplay in terms of jobs and contracts that you'd be doing with them, in terms of gaining reputation. But it also talks about how they have anti-Mezzer roots, and they smuggled anti-Mezzer refugees. Well, where else do we know of in lore that is very anti-Mezzer and was also a focal point for, I forget what they called the sort of underground railroad for transporting anti-Mezzer activists out of the UEE to safety into Xi'an space and non-UE controlled systems, Nyx and Levski. I would not be surprised if eventually we might find out that the Drop Kings have operations in Nyx, or they go through Nyx on their way to Pyro and maybe onto Stanton for their smuggling operations coming from Castra, because Castra is connected to both Pyro and Nyx, and thus Stanton. So I think this really helps to connect all that in terms of gameplay for less than legal gameplay, your smuggling gameplay, but also where we might find them, and if you are where to look for them if you're working on the lawful side of things. Sergeant, what are you doing up at this hour? Well, it's 10:23 my time, and I don't have to be at drill. Showtime is 8 o'clock tomorrow, so I'll be going to bed here because we're almost finished. But I really wanted to get this done so that way I could upload it in the morning and have it on my YouTube, because I haven't posted to YouTube in a couple days. But I think that it is not insignificant that they are adding the Drop Kings when they are. I do hope that because they mentioned the Drop Kings, that we will get I would like to see an update to the lore for Nyx, because they mentioned and this is another reason to read the Lore Makers community questions, because one of the questions in one of them, I think is one of them from last year, they talked about additional outlaw factions, and they mentioned the Moraine, which is sort of like think of like a crime family, kind of like the Italian mob. And the Moraine operate out of Nyx, and they live and operate out of asteroid facilities in I forget, primarily in, what's the name of the belt? The more inner asteroid belt within the Nyx system. So will be interesting to see how that plays out. Let's see what happens before we call it a night. Let's see what happens when I click on Human Outlaw Faction. Actually, let's open both. Human Outlaw Factions, latest articles, Drop Kings, Headhunters, Nine Tails. All of them include, Drop Kings, Nova Riders, Fire Rats, Rough and Ready, Headhunters, Xenothreat, and Nine Tails. So, like they just said, Drop Kings have dialed back their operations in Pyro, but apparently haven't turned them off altogether. Are the Nova Riders in Pyro? I don't remember. Fire Rats for sure, yes. Rough and Ready, yes. Headhunters, yes. Xenothreat, yes. Nova Riders. I know we've heard about them multiple times. I don't remember if they're in Pyro or Stanton. I thought we had more pirate gangs in Pyro that we knew about. Maybe we just don't have Galactapedia articles for all of them. Okay, so there's 7 human outlaw factions, but then when you click outlaw factions, there's only 5. Interesting. Okay. All right, let's switch back to this screen real quick. The prisoner, they repeated. The 5 outlaw factions were also mentioned in the human outlaw factions. Now, the fact that they have a tag that says outlaw factions and a separate one for human outlaw factions makes me excited for non-human outlaw factions. We know that the Xion have essentially government-sanctioned criminal houses. Like they are, houses within the Xion where they're sanctioned by the government to do crime. I don't know much about the Banu in comparison. I assume that there are criminal Sulis, but I don't know how that would work. That would be a good question for jail. But then I want to hear more about the Tavaran. What specific Tavaran type gangs are there? We know that there's a lot of Tavaran that live outside the law, but what specific outlaw or Tavaran gangs are there, and what are they like? Where do they operate? That'll be interesting to hear about as we get more and more lore. So that is all that I have for the episode 20 of Lore Equals Gameplay. This has been the December 2023 Galactapedia update. I hope that you will join me on Monday night. Should be Monday night. That's the plan for episode 21, where we're going to take a look at the January Galactapedia update. So just this last month's. And we'll do that. And then tomorrow night we've got the Pathfinders podcast. Should be at 10 p.m. Eastern. right here. And so Nazareth and I are going to be getting together. We've got 2 Spectrum Pulses planned for you. One looking at 323, what we got heard about yesterday from SCL, and compare that to Jared's wish list from Inside Star Citizen at the end of last year. And so, to see what else is missing in terms of what's planned for 323. And then we're also going to look at the financial report that was released in December, which looks at the financials for 2022. They're a year in arrears. And then I still have to find time to do I want to do a Lore Equals gameplay for the last Lore Makers community questions, which I think was like in November, December. I know I'm behind. The band who don't have gangs, they have entrepreneurs. Good to know. And then the other thing, let's see, hold on, I'm going to put up my calendar on a different screen, is, bear with me 1 second, because I work on Tuesday. I have a night flight on Wednesday. Okay, so the 8th, Thursday the 8th, is a big, important day. I had the day off, and I'll be done with my night flight, probably home well before midnight on the 7th. But I had the day off on Thursday the 8th, and that is when Helldivers 2 drops. So I will probably be streaming during the day while the kid is at school and the wife is at work, and probably even more in the evening. So I will make some posts in my Discord about the events. If you want to join me for some co-op gameplay, I'll be playing during the day. Probably going to try and hook up with Paul and play. And maybe we'll do a pub plays. And I'll probably do that during the day, and then a co-op game night the night of Thursday the 8th. So if you're interested in watching that, I'll be here. I'll also post it out on Twitter, or you can join me in my Discord. And if you are planning on buying in the game, you can join up with me. It is 4-player co-op, so it's gonna be first come first serve. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Should be a really great game. So if that's something you're interested in, come and hang out. And I will see you tomorrow night, hopefully, or in the near future. Thanks again for hanging out with me. Thanks again for supporting StackUp.org. Thank you, Axis Zyron, for I think it was a 14-month sub. Really appreciate it. We're up to 19. We're almost to 20 subs. I've never had this many subs before. You guys are legends. So thanks again for joining me. Real quick, let's find somebody to raid. We got to pass the love along. I need a suggestion. So let's see who is available. Let's see. Virity is playing Star Citizen. Sergeant Tickos is playing Diablo 4. StackUp is playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any suggestions for who we can raid? Who can we send some love to? Verity is the only person I know of that's playing Star Citizen right now that I follow. Anyone? Bueller? Mom's 308? That's a... Got... Mom's 308 playing Star Citizen? Sure, we will send them some love. They've only got 3 people. A real dude, as opposed to a fake dude. Alright. Send them some love. Go, I have rated Verity before, so I try to spread the love around. And Verity's like a partner. She's got 162 people, so she don't need any help. So let's send Mom's 308 some love. Go say hi for a few minutes at least. Thanks again, everybody. Cheers.